In the soft morning light, imagine yourself stepping into a time long ago, a world we now call the medieval era, a world where life was harsh, unpredictable, and every day was a challenge. Today, you will discover why surviving even a single day in those times would have been nearly impossible for an ordinary person. The first danger was disease. Unlike today, where medicine, hospitals, and hygiene are common, back then even a small cut could be deadly. Villages had no doctors or pharmacies, and people relied on natural remedies, herbs, poultices, or even bloodletting that often caused more harm than good. Infections spread easily, and plagues could wipe out entire communities. Every day carried the shadow of illness, and many did not live to see old age. Food was another constant worry. Meals were scarce and unpredictable. Most people grew what they could, hunted if they were lucky, or relied on the land's offerings. A typical meal might consist of stale bread, watery porridge, or a few vegetables. Sometimes crops failed, leaving families hungry for days. There were no supermarkets, no preserved foods, no guarantee of what tomorrow might bring. Children and the elderly suffered the most, often without enough to eat. Sanitation was nearly non-existent. Villages had open drains, garbage often lay in the streets, and clean water was a luxury few could access. Contaminated water led to illness, and hygiene practices were primitive. Bathing was rare, and disease spread quickly through crowded homes and public spaces. Life demanded constant vigilance, yet most people had no real protection against the dangers around them. Violence was part of daily life. Wars, bandits, and wild animals were constant threats. Traveling even a short distance could be risky, and safety was never guaranteed. A simple trip to the market might involve dodging robbers or avoiding a skirmish between feuding neighbors. Life required courage simply to survive from dawn to dusk. Education was a privilege, not a right. Most people could not read or write, relying on oral traditions to pass knowledge. Learning about the world beyond one's village was nearly impossible, and ignorance left people vulnerable to deception, superstition, and fear. Life was structured around survival, work, and obedience, leaving little room for curiosity or leisure. Even work was grueling. Farmers labored from sunrise to sunset, tending fields with primitive tools. Craftsmen, blacksmiths, and laborers faced long, exhausting days, often with minimal reward. The labor of children was expected, and the elderly who could not work depended entirely on family or charity. Rest was brief, and life's demands never ceased. Religion and superstition shaped every aspect of life. People sought comfort and explanation in rituals, prayers, and folklore, hoping to protect themselves from illness, misfortune, or enemies. Magical charms, spells, and prayers were common, and fear of divine punishment or curses influenced even the simplest decisions. Even leisure was scarce and risky. Festivals and fairs existed, but they were temporary escapes, and dangers lurked everywhere. A sudden fire, a disease outbreak, or a violent dispute could turn a joyful gathering into tragedy. Entertainment came with a price, and caution was always necessary. Considering all these factors, disease, hunger, poor sanitation, constant violence, lack of education, and harsh labor, it becomes clear why surviving a single day in medieval times was no small feat. Life was fragile, fleeting, and unpredictable. every moment required attention, courage, and endurance. People lived in a world where comfort, safety, and certainty were luxuries they could not afford. Yet, despite these hardships, people endured. They built communities, cultivated traditions, and found moments of joy in music, storytelling, and companionship. Their resilience allowed them to survive in conditions that modern humans would find almost unbearable. And while it is easy to romanticize history, imagining castles, knights, and grand adventures, the reality for the average person was often far harsher. So, when you imagine yourself in the medieval world, consider the struggle behind every simple act of survival. Every meal, every step outside the home, every interaction carried risk. Life was brief and precious, and even one day required bravery, patience, and endurance. In this light, we can appreciate the comforts of our modern world: clean water, medicine, education, and safety. Medieval life was a daily battle, and the ordinary people who lived through it were far braver than most of us could imagine. A single day was not just another day. It was a challenge, a test, and sometimes a fight against the odds just to see the sunrise again.